Hello students, today we'll be discussing employee compensation under Unit 4 of Human Resource Management KMBN 202. When we talk about compensation, employees they work they work with an organization for two prime reasons. One is career growth and second is compensation. That means they want their efforts to be appreciated, they want their efforts to be rewarded, which they are doing for the organization. Basically compensation fulfills the objectives of acquiring qualified personnel. That means compensation needs to be high enough to attract applicants, and obviously pay levels must respond to the supply and demand of the workers in the labor market, since employers compete for their workers. And when you are paying according to the market, you are paying sound enough, so you tend to lose your employees to the competitors if your compensation system is not sound. But if it is going well with the market, then you tend to retain them. So compensation is one of the key, you can say, anchors that holds back your employees with the organization. Then employees may quit if compensation levels are not competitive, and therefore obviously it will result in higher turnover. Compensation management also strives for internal and external equity. So internal equity basically requires the pay to be related to the relative worth of the job, so that similar job gets similar pay. So compensation has to be devised in a manner so that if two persons are working on the same kind of job, so there has to be balanced pay, there has to be equitable pay when it comes to the offering salary or remuneration to a particular job. So external pay equity, it means paying workers what comparable workers are paid by other firms in the labor market. So for a particular job for which compensation is being designed, it has to be designed in a manner so that the similar type of job in the market is being paid somehow near to that what you are offering. So it will give a lesser chance of your workforce movement from your organization to the market. Then you through compensation system you reward the desired behavior. So they reinforce your salary structure, reinforces desired behaviors, and it acts as an incentive for those behaviors to occur in the future. So effective compensation plan, it rewards performances, loyalty, experience, responsibility, and other behaviors. It also helps in rationalizing the cost in the organization, and without effective compensation management, workers could be overpaid or underpaid. And one of the important objectives of the compensation is to comply with the legal regulations, because a sound wage and salary system considers the legal challenges which is imposed by the government and ensures the employer's compliance. That means whatever has been complied by the government, maybe in terms of minimum wages, in terms of compensation, in terms of maybe gratuity, health insurance, and all those things, it is being complied upon through this particular system. Then wage and salary programs, they should be designed to be managed efficiently, making optimal use of human resources. Although this objective should be secondary, considering say or compared with rest of the objectives. Talking about the compensation, there are certain factors that affect your compensation or remuneration. We have external factors and we have internal factors. Under external factors, the one important prime factor is labor market, because demand and supply for labor it influences wage and salary fixation. So a low wage may be fixed when supply of labor is more, and similarly a higher wage may be fixed when supply is less and demand is more. And productivity of labor also influences wage fixation. Productivity can arise due to increased effort of the worker. So, as a result of factors beyond the control of a worker, such as improved technology, sophisticated machines, and equipments, and better management. So, we have another important factor, which is cost of living. So, next in importance of the labor market is cost of living. A rise in cost of living is sought to be compensated by payment of dearness allowances, basic pay to remain undisturbed. Because if you basically dearness allowance caters to the dearness which is, or the inflation which is going into the market, which leads to the higher cost of living. So basic pay should not get affected. Therefore, dearness allowance as a type of allowance which is there as a component under your salary is being managed accordingly so as to maintain cost of living. Then presence or absence of labor organizations, they also determine the quantum of the wage which is paid to the employees. So unionized in non-unionized factories may enjoy the freedom to fix wages and salaries, but if an individual non-unionized company may be willing to pay more to its employees, if only to discourage them from forming union. That means union, uh, paying low salaries could be one of the reasons when employees go for the formation of union. So if you are paying them fairly and they are being compensated decently, that might restrict them for forming unions. Then remuneration paid to the employees is reflected in the prices which is being fixed by an organization for its goods and services. So for this reason, the consuming public is interested in the remuneration decisions as well. Because word of mouth spreads very fast in the market when it comes to the employees, and as in the beginning we all said that we are living in the era where we have open market. So you cannot stop your employee from moving out of the organization. So compensation, as I said, that it is one of the best anchors to hold back your employees in the organization. Then economy is again a very important external factor that has an impact on wage and salary. While sometimes it is possible for organizations to thrive in recession, but there is no question that if economy affects the remuneration decision. So a healthy economy is reflected in the salary structures of the organization, and a poor economy, or if a country is going through recession phase and all that, so it is being reflected as cost cuts, curtailment of freezing of jobs, and no increments at all. So this economy also is being one of the important factors that affects your compensation. And under internal environment we have business strategy. That means overall strategy which a company is pursuing determines the remuneration of its employees, where the strategy of the enterprise is to achieve rapid growth. Remuneration should be higher than what competitors pay, where the strategy is to maintain and protect their current earnings. All this business strategy is having a huge impact on how you structure compensation for your organization. Then job evaluation and performance appraisal as well. So job evaluation helps establishing satisfactory wage differential among jobs, like which is in form of the employee, that what experience he is having, what are the skills he is having. So accordingly compensation might be customized. Then the experience as well. And finally is ability to pay. Ability to pay depends upon the financial positioning and the financial cushioning of the organization. So financial strength of the organization is highly critical factor that will determine your compensation administration. So these were some of the factors that impacts your compensation structure. So while when we talk about compensation, we have two words in our mind. One is wage and second is salary. So generally, students get confused with wage and salary. Uh, if we go by the definition of ILO, it defines wages as the amount received by an employee for the services of hourly, daily, weekly, and fortnightly employees. That means which is on the basis of number of hours you are working or the number of units that you are producing. So that means at the end of the day or at the end of the month, what is being calculated is the number of hours you have worked or the number of units you have produced, and accordingly you will be paid. So when you are paid in this particular manner, it will be termed as wages. And salaries are the remuneration which is being paid to the employee on monthly or yearly basis, and there is no criteria of hourly or unit basis. So is basically wage and salary. So it has to be very very clear in the mind of the employee as well as you as a management student. You must have a clear distinction between what this wage, what wages are and what these are salaries are. So gone are the days we were talking that wages are being given to the blue collar workers and salaries are being paid to the white collar workers. No, it purely depends on the number of hours. For example, you are working as a consultant, you are working on the number of hours. That does not mean that you are a labor class or similar. So because the market has changed over the period of years, so now it is not restricted to the blue collar or white collar workers. uh, Now we have components of compensation. When we talk about compensation of components, we have components of compensation. We have you are going to have different components in. It will vary from organization to organization, but precisely or primarily it has got four different, you can say, components. First is basic wage or salary. Second are allowances, bonus and other incentives, and fringe benefits or perquisites or perks. So now basic wage, what basic wage is basically, it provides the foundation of the pay pocket. It is the price of for services rendered. It varies according to mental and physical requirements of a job as measured through job evaluation. And in India, basic wage has been influenced by statutory minimum wages and wage settlements and awards of wage boards, tribunals, pay commissions. So it is based on what government, what we have a statutory provision. So basic wage is comprising of three different type of wages. One is minimum wage, second is fair wage, and third is living wage. So minimum wage is wages which are being given for the sustenance and preservance the efficiency of a worker and offer basic amenities of life. That means you need to pay at least that much amount of money, as stated by the as stated by in Minimum Wages Act, so as your worker can fulfill the basic requirements of food, clothing, and shelter. So that is what is basic minimum wage. So fair wage, then we have living wage. Wage level always allows the earner to afford adequate shelter, food, and other necessities of life. But it you do not require only these type of wages, because you need to have a substantial amount, enough to ensure that no more than at least 30% of the needs are spent on housing. So the goal of living wage is to allow employees to earn enough income for a satisfactory standards of living. Minimum wages is fulfilling the basic requirements, but living wages are those type of wages which are giving you now a standard a standard, a basic standard of living. So it is now not specified or limited to the minimum requirements, but you might require education, you might require medicines for to maintain that basic standard of living. Then fair wage. Fair wage is something which is more than minimum wages, and fair wage is means that between living wage and the minimum wage. So fair wages are purely uh, it purely depends on the financial ability and the ability to pay by the organization. So that, and this fair wage, it is the major you can say component that will have a distinction of your salary, of your compensation as compared to competitors, and purely depending upon the financial, the ability of what the company's ability is to pay will decide your fair wages. Then we have dearness allowance. This allowance is given basically to protect the real wages, as we already said that you need to protect the basic, your basic wage has not you it should not get altered by the inflation which is happening in the market. So to protect the real wages of the workers during inflation, under section 3 of minimum wages act, as a cost of living allowance, dearness allowance has become an integral part of the wage system in India. And apart from dearness allowance, there are other allowances which organizations are giving to the say employees as a part of their compensation. But other allowances, some of the allowances would be statutory, and some of them would be, precisely depending upon the organization's nature and organization's ability to pay. Then bonus basically is the share of the workers in the prosperity of the enterprise. It may also be regarded as an incentive. Bonus is generally an organizational incentive, type of incentive, which is which may be which is given when higher productivity is achieved and profits are earned. So according to bonus commission, bonus is sharing by worker in the prosperity of the concern in which they are employed. So in case of low paid workers, such as sharing in the prosperity augments earnings, and it helps basically to bridge the gap between actual wages and need based wages. So it has a little you can say direct incentive effect, because it is usually paid to all workers at same rate irrespective of their individual efficiency and long after the close of the financial years. Herein we are discussing, I'm just giving you a brief about what bonus is, and incentives we'll be discussing in the coming slides. But bonus itself is a very exhaustive topic which right now we are not discussing, but just to have an idea that bonus do forms the part of the compensation. Then we have fringe benefit. So fringe benefit basically refers to the various extra benefit which is being provided to the employees in addition to the compensation which is being paid in form of wage or salary. So these can be defined as any wage cost not directly connected with the employee's effort performance. For example, we have medical insurance, we have paid leaves, we have rest periods, we have pension, security. So all these whatever amount you are being paid for all these things will come under fringe benefits. And perquisites are maybe in terms of you are being given a car, a chauffeur. These days you have laptops, you have iPads, you have mobiles, you have internet connection. They all will come under perquisites. So basically fringe benefits are given to supplement your regular wages in or salary. So they are paid to all employees based based on the type of position they are holding in the organization. So these are indirect compensation because they are not related to the employee's performance. It has nothing to do with the employee's performance, and it involves a labor cost for the employer and are not meant directly to improve efficiency. Then we have incentives. So incentives are that extra financial motivation. When we say incentives, they purely are designed to stimulate human effort by rewarding the person over and above the time rated remuneration for improvements in the present or targeted results. Please keep in mind that incentives are purely based on the performance. As we said that fringe benefits has nothing to do with the performance, but incentives are purely related with the performance. So performance incentives, when we go for the formation of incentives, it should have approval of management, workers and trade union. That means when you devise incentive system or incentive plan for your organization, it must have obviously approval from management. Then workers too should be involved in the when you design or devise incentive mechanism for your organization, because ultimately it is the worker who is being paid for the putting in extra effort. So it has to be very very transparent, and you need to involve trade unions so as to have lesser resistance from the union and workers. Then work standard, it has to be based on the work standard, because every job, every work will have different parameters and measuring parameters, so as to so as to reward them according to the performance. Then guaranteed base wage means that your incentive has to be over and above the remuneration that is being already fixed for a particular position. That means uh, you cannot have only incentives. That means you can never have a system designed in the organization which pays only for performance and is not guaranteeing a base wage. That means, for example, if I am a non performer, if I am not performing over and above, so my incentive system should be designed in a manner so that it does not affect my basic or whatever is being being allotted to that particular position. It has to be in addition to what is being allotted to that particular position. So no unwarranted rate cuttings has to be there. It should be easy to calculate, and then there must be grievance procedure in place so as to handle grievances related to the incentives in the organization. uh, we have now the different type of incentive systems. First is team gain sharing or profit sharing, team goal based incentive systems, team discretionary bonus systems, team and team member skill incentive systems. Um in the case of team profit sharing or gain sharing systems, team incentives are tied to organizational outcomes, that is organizational profit, organizational productivity, maybe customer satisfaction, and so on. Especially in team profit sharing systems, the organizational outcome evaluated is financial and in financial in nature. That means your whole organization is performing, it is getting profits, and the productivity is being enhanced. So teams are rewarded when the organization makes a certain amount of profit. That is why I said that bonus is the example of your team gain sharing or profit sharing type of incentive. Then we have team goal based incentive system. In this type of system, the organization it formulates the goals or targets. That means it sets certain targets for each team, and which are believed to reflect effective performance outcomes. So such goals may be very short, it may be short term or long term. So but herein precisely target is being formulated for the team, and when the team's performance meets the target, its members earn a predetermined monetary or non-monetary reward. So these type of incentives are known as team goal based incentive systems. Then team discretionary bonus system, basically they are targeted to evaluate team outcomes when determining whether a specific team should be provided with incentive or not. That means you have, as a team, you have done an exceptionally very good, you have superseded your target achievements, you have worked on a very unique project, you have handled a very say a very high profile client. So those type of, when you are superseding those type of targets and performances, so that type of incentive which you gain out of this is known as team discretionary bonus system. Then we have team and team member skill incentive systems. Under this system, Teams are rewarded when they demonstrate the acquisition of certain skills. For example, you might go, undertake a certain training. Entire team is performing because of that training. So, on the basis of that, your skills which has enhanced your performance, it might be rewarded, and this type of reward system or incentive system is known as team and team member skill incentive system. So, but when we talk about executive compensation, it is a bit different from normal compensation system. So, talking about executive compensation, so the financial payments and non-monetary benefits which are being provided to high-level management in exchange for their work on behalf of an organization. So, the type of employees that are typically paid with executive compensation packages, they include CEOs, CFOs, then vice president, managing directors, and other executives. Basically, as a rule of thumb, the base salary, it constitutes 30% of the total compensation. The annual incentive may be 20%, and the benefits or long-term incentive is at 10%, and wealth creation portion, or you can say stocks, they are again 10%, and 40% is before the is about 40%. And obviously lot of board attention is being paid for improving the relationship between pay and performance of the executives for the higher productivity and efficiency of the organization. So, it has got its 4 different characteristics: pay package design, equity compensation, performance contingent pay, and vesting schedules. So, executive pay, they are typically have got components like salary, annual incentives, long term incentive benefits, perquisites, and severance. That is change in, for example, if there are certain changes in the control agreement, so that too is being paid up. Then equity compensation, it comes in form of company stock. Then performance contingent pay, it is designed so that the bulk of the executive compensation is contingent on company achieving pre-established criteria of specific financial results. And vesting schedules, for example, there are certain strategic criteria for an award which is to be met. Full ownership of the equity award are often conditioned on the executive's compliance with over certain covenants. So, there are certain components of executive compensation: base salary, executive bonus plans, performance incentives, long term versus short term, benefits for executives, and executive perquisites. So these form the components of executive compensation. We have already discussed it in class in detail. And now, for moving forward to industrial relations, because industrial relation too is a part of your people management. You need to understand the relationship between employees, and government, that is a legally controlling body for the organization. So, according to ILO, industrial relations, they comprise of relationships between state on one hand and the employers and employees on the other hand. So, industrial relation is concerned with the relationship between management and workers, and the role of regulatory mechanism, which is state or which is federal system, in resolving any industrial dispute. Therefore, we have 3 main parties in industrial relations, which is employees, employers, and your state government. So, employees generally are being represented by unions, and employers too might be represented by employers associations. But precisely, we have employees, employers, and government as the parties to the industrial relations. Now, there are certain approaches towards the IR. So, one is traditional approach, and second is modern approach. Talking about the approaches, psychological, we have under traditional approach, we have psychological approach, sociological approach, human relation approach. modern under modern approaches, we have unitary, pluralistic, Marxist, trusteeship, and the system approach. Psychological approach is like the psyche of a person. Two individuals are there, two parties are there in the organization. One will resent the other, and both the parties may have a they have a conflicting, because workers might every time think that employers do not take care of them, and similarly employers think that employees, they are there to work because they somehow are paying them. And sociological approach is when you are taking organization, when you are making organization at an upper end, and your approach towards handling conflict and dispute varies accordingly. Then human relation approach is that there might be that conflict is inevitable in an organization. If there are two parties of two different bent of mindset, it is quite possible that there might have a conflict, but that conflict needs to be resolved in a proper manner. Then we have modern approaches, unitary perspective, which thinks that organization is a unit, and as a unit where both the parties, that is employers and employees, need to perform so as to make this unit work properly. Then pluralistic approach is that on one hand there are employers, that means who are you know who there are two contributing parties, employers and employees, but both are moving towards different, they have two different views related to the organization. Then Marxist or radical perspective is that the now here is on the basis of the money, that who controls the money in the organization. So there are basically two parties, one where wealth is concentrated, and second where wealth is not concentrated, but they are the wealth makers. Like employees think that they are creating profit for the organization, so they must get their due. And on the other hand, it is the say capitalists who think that whatever is being earned is for them, and it is up to them that how they will distribute it in the organization. Then trusteeship or Gandhian approach, it talks about the concern that employer is the trustee or the steward of the organization. So and they need to guard the wealth which is being created by the employees and distribute the share of the profit equally among the employees, and keep rest of the say wealth or profit that is being achieved, or that is being that is being created for the for the development of the organization. So Gandhiji was in the viewpoint that strike that strike should be the last hand in the weapon, as a weapon in the hands of the employees. And similarly, firing of the employee has to be the last weapon in the hands of the employer. So both of them should respect each other under this particular approach. And the system approach, as was given by Dunlop, he said that it is a system wherein we have two subsystems, which are employer, which we have employees, and we have organization, and both them, all these are interdependent systems. They must work together in order to make this organization run properly. So it helps in achieving good, foster industrial peace. It promotes industrial democracy. Obviously, when you have smooth relations in the organization, it will benefit to the workers. They will work without any dispute. They will work without having any grievances, and obviously it will be benefit to the management. They will achieve more productivity and profit, and lesser of wastage, lesser of supervision will improve productivity when your organization is having sound industrial relations. So this was all about unit. This was a summarized view of unit 4.